What's up, my name's Dallen. Today I'm a guest on the channel. Today we're working on a 2014 Jeep Patriot where we have a leak at the filler neck on the radiator for the upper radiator hose. I've just purchased the entire assembly to replace it because I don't want to deal with just replacing one hose or the other or just the filler neck. I'm not sure where the problem is, so we're just replacing the whole unit. Should be pretty straightforward. We've got the end that actually goes into the radiator down here with a clamp on it. One bolt right here to undo to take this assembly off, and then we'll, while it's off, we'll put this little clip into that metal hanger there. And then on this other end, I think that's where it goes into the thermostat housing or the engine block, not really sure, but we'll figure it out. I've already removed this from the air filter. This goes into the throttle body. You just undo this screw here with either an 8mm or a flathead screwdriver, pop it off. You're also going to want to remove your, I think this is the airflow sensor, air temp, I'm not sure, air intake temp sensor. You can unclip it from here. That's the actual sensor. This is just the housing or cable that goes to it. You have to pull this red bit back, and then you can push down on this thing here, this clip that keeps it fixed in place, and pull back. It might be a little stuck, especially if it's dusty. Anyway, once that's removed, we're gonna pull that out of the way. I'll probably grab a bungee cord or something, and then we'll get to work back there. You can see I've got a bungee just up here to the rod that keeps the hood up into the end of this air intake hose, just to keep it out of the way. We could remove the whole thing from the throttle body, but I don't think we'll need to. We've got plenty of room to work around it, and we really just need to get to that clamp right there. I'm gonna try to do as much of this on camera as I can, but you know, I don't have a tripod or anything, so I'm just gonna try and hold it with my left hand, do the work with my right. Be aware that many people would probably go under here and would find wherever the radiator drain is, take off this whole plate and stuff, but I'm just gonna have some buckets underneath where I'm taking off the hose up here, and some under here where I know it's gonna come out of the skid plate and capture that. There's also not very much fluid even in here because it's been leaking, so this hose is pretty empty already. There might be some that flows out of the block back here or out of the housing. That's okay. But try and contain it so it doesn't go in the sewer drains, blah blah blah. And just so you don't get too far, I've taken this to the sink and rinsed it out in case there was anything residual or dusty in there. You don't want that getting into your cooling system, so I just gave it a rinse with water. Now it looks like we're also going to need to remove the air filter housing. Just so you know, this bit above the battery has already been removed. This is how it looks like with it in. You just twist these pins, so that's in, that's out, and then you wiggle that out of place, take it out, set it over here, then you have access to this housing. But we're gonna need to move it so that we can get our channel locks into where that clamp is that I showed you earlier. All you have to do is remove this bolt right here, maybe loosen that one a bit so it's out of the way, and then there are just 3 pins in there in rubber settings, I suppose you could call them, that you kind of have to wiggle it out and then it can get out of the way. Just be careful with these cables here. You can probably flip it up and over like that. Once again, get a bungee cord or something to hold it out of the way. And it is a 10mm right there. Put that in a safe place where you're definitely not going to lose it, like up there on your hood. Yeah, that one needs to be loosened up too, just so this bracket can move out of our way. There we go. I would leave that in actually and screw it just hand tight so that won't go anywhere. It'll stay there. Now at this point, yep, that thing should just pop right out of place. There's 3, I think. This first one's still stuck in. Now all 3 are out. And we can kind of flip that over. It's not gonna stay, oh, it will for now, but we will need a bungee cord to keep that so it doesn't come crashing down on us. Just a sec. If you haven't started yet, honestly, you can probably just leave this hose on. I took that off prematurely, but that could just stay on there at that same angle. I'm resting it on there. One bungee could do the whole job. And look, I have easy access to where that hose comes out. And there's the wider view, because so often YouTube doesn't give us that. Here's where our leak is. Here's that hose. Here's where that clamp is. So I have recently removed this to replace my thermostats contained within this housing. It might be a little easier for, oh, what is that gunk on there? What the heck? Might be a little bit easier for me to get the hose off than for you. Since this has been done recently, these tend to get very stuck onto the housing. And see, we already have some fluid leak. So I'm just gonna move this clamp back as much as I need to in order to get this hose off, allow the coolant out, and to put the new hose on. I'm gonna pause there and do that. So now I've moved this clamp back far enough that it's no longer over the housing. The housing starts right here, so now it's just on the flexible hose. I should be able to wiggle that off. It's probably gonna be a mess. Don't pull too hard or you're gonna freaking whack your arm. Yeah, that's a big mess. Pour what we can into the bucket. There we go. That's most of what's coming from up there. If any of this gets on your driveway, get water on it ASAP so that it doesn't stain, but this does come off over time. So I'm gonna work on this. Just another note here, this bolt, instead of leaving up there like an idiot, I'm just gonna, oh no, it doesn't screw in right there. Can I screw it back in up here? I don't even remember where it goes, to be honest. Oh, there we go. Screw it back into that hole. That way you have no way of losing it. So, a little bit splashed down, got onto the driveway, so I got some water on it ASAP, and I've got 2 buckets just collecting the drips that are coming down from that skid plate. Probably the next thing I'm gonna do is remove this hose. So this is at the actual filler neck, and this goes back to your reservoir. I'm personally not replacing this right now. Don't think I need to. No leaks coming from it. Who knows if that will change once I take it off and reapply it, because it looks pretty stuck. Hopefully it doesn't become damaged, but I have the luxury of another vehicle to take me to AutoZone if I need to go buy this hose again. So I'm gonna work on that. So I took this flathead screwdriver, wiggled under there, pulled it out. I'm probably gonna get a bucket, or you know what, honestly don't even need to do that, and just keep it upright and nothing should leak since it's above this tank level right here. So now that that's done, we can kind of do the same thing over here. I'll probably remove this bolt, and then that clamp right there will do the same thing, and then we'll put in the new one. Pretty simply got that bolt undone and taken it out of this hole here and just screwed it back in so that I don't lose it. I've tried to keep this end above so that as I tip it around, the remainder can go in there. Keeps things a little bit cleaner. This hose is mostly empty at this point, so I'm going to take this bucket out of here and dispose of it responsibly. All right, I've got that clamp wiggled out. Just for reference, that probably took me 60 seconds or 2 minutes, so it doesn't just happen instantly. Give it some elbow grease, and this side needs to come out. If there is any fluid in here, it's okay, good. No fluid right there, so we're probably good to just pull this whole assembly out. Okay, so there was some fluid in there, but there's not anymore. Boom. So remember, oh, that's kind of a cool beetle right there. Anyway, what you need to do now is remove this metal bracket. What you're gonna do is pinch on those 2 sides, probably with your channel locks, and force that whole assembly off. Get that bracket, and we'll put it on the other unit. Remember, you're gonna need these clamps unless your new assembly comes with it. Mine did not. I've just gone ahead and poured some water over my engine bay here where some has spilled, flushes it out onto the driveway. Do this with caution, technically disconnect your battery, blah, blah, blah. I'm not liable for you, whatever. All right, I pinched those guys and removed the bracket with the channel locks. Stuck the new one on here. It looks like it's not quite the same fit, so it's a little loosey-goosey. Shouldn't really matter too much, but be aware. Another good thing to do is I'm probably gonna go in here and wipe this down. I don't know why that stuff looks so corroded, but we're just gonna wipe it down, get a nice good seal, make sure it's clean inside and outside my hose right there, as well as on this end of things, and then we'll reapply the new one. Okay, so now we've slid this end on to where it goes on to the housing, where the thermostat housing. That was pretty easy because it was still wet from all of this water and coolant that just spilled out. So pretty easy. If you need some coolant, do it. Grab this with channel locks, pull it up to right there on the housing, probably where the housing meets the hose. All right, we got that clamp wrestled on. For reference, since I like reality on YouTube, that probably took me like 5 minutes to wrestle on there. You really got to pinch it all the way to the limit before it'll go over that brand new nice thick hose over onto the housing. Make sure you give it a squeeze right here. Make sure that you can feel the edge of the housing and know that the full clamp is over the edge of it, so it's clamping on plastic, not just clamping on your hose. It will come off its pressurized system. Let's move up here. We're gonna get that side, then we'll put this on and we'll go from there. Wow, that side was like 10 times easier. It only took me like 30 seconds. Now let's get this bracket back in place. Actually, before we do that, we're gonna drop this back down. I think this is putting some pressure on the new hose, and since it's newer and stiffer, it's hard to get that into place. All right, we've got just about everything back into place. We replaced this, set it in the 3 pins in the rubber seated areas. Put these 2 bolts back in, tighten them well. Put your air intake back onto the air filter, replace the sensor, put the switch back in this direction so it won't come loose. Tighten up this clamp right here. Make sure it's all secure. Make sure you're secure on the other end of this hose and this end of the hose. This did slip out of the bracket for me, so just be aware that it could do that if it's a different aftermarket size. And then tighten up this bolt here with that metal bracket. Now, what you've got to do, assuming, oh, don't forget this guy right here from your tank. Slips right over the edge there. Gosh, I hope that's gonna work. That's a little loosey-goosey. Guess we'll find out, huh? I don't know, should be fine. Maybe not. Make sure these clamps are tight too. Looks like they came tight from the shop, but I'm still gonna put a screwdriver on them and just make sure. When we fill this up, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze to water. Make sure your water is distilled water, because the other stuff, normal water, tap water, got minerals in it that are going to mess up your system and put junk in it over time. So make sure it's 50-50. You can either buy it pre-diluted or you can buy the concentrate and put it in there. What you need to do is actually burp the system. So what that means is fill this up as much as you can right here until you see it, then run the engine with this open, and then when it gets hot enough, it'll start circulating and you'll see it fill up the block and whatever, and then you can start putting more into this space here. Be cautious, never start this job with the engine hot. It's got to be a cold engine or it'll blow up in your face. Anyway, be careful. Good luck. Now we've got the car on. You see I've got the cap off. Do this at your own risk. We're just watching the temperature. Once it gets to that middle spot there, that's when we know it's up to temp. The thermostats should be open and it should be circulating. So be careful, this fluid's gonna get hot. Do this at your own risk. Go to professional, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, as soon as that gets there, we should see if it's got enough fluid once it starts circulating through. So keep an eye. Another option, technically, once you've like done this, you don't have to even burp it necessarily, but as long as you fill it up, you could go for a drive, get it up to temp, come back, let it cool, and then see what's open and empty, and then fill up that space. You can see we're almost up to temp here. Really close. We'll see if it even gets there. Sometimes it just stays a little below that. We let out so little fluid too that I'm betting that it's gonna be just fine as it is. We're pretty much up to temp and nothing's happening. So I'm gonna turn the car off, put the lid on, go for a drive, watch that temperature gauge real close.